Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. That means, as you know, AEW Dynamite Maximum Carnage is here. So we have a lot of things taking place. As you know, we have a six-woman tag team match featuring, of course, the Triangle of Madness taking on our champions, the Babes of Wrath, of course, who are our current AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, not to mention one of them is a TBS champion, along with Chris Statlander, our current AEW Women's World Champion. And then we have, of course, plenty other things taking place. The main event features, of course, the AEW World Title. MJF defends his belt against Bandito, who won the Dynamite Diamond Ring in the Gauntlet match, which is gonna be awesome. So we will see. Can Bandito become double world champion? Well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But first things first, we're going to be reviewing, of course, Baka Gaijin and Friends, their much recent show, Volume 27, that took place on the 13th of January, back into their usual spot because previously they were in Shinjuku Face, which was a very different atmosphere than they always did in the bar, and there's going to be a lot of fun, wacky matches you don't want to miss. And then, of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information has been unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please click like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the yapping. Let's get started. So, let's begin with Baka Gaijin and Friends. All right. Baka Gaijin and Friends, I'm glad they're back into their usual location, which is at a bar at an undisclosed location. I don't know exactly the name of it, but the atmosphere they did in Shinjuku Face was a little weird because there was too much audience, and it was very, to me, like, I don't know. It's nothing compared like we see with Chocopro. Of course, what they do their usual shows in Ichigaya Square, and then they have their bigger shows in places like, of course, Korkin Hall, Shinkiba, Shinjuku, Itabashi, Tokyo Square, Itabashi, somewhere place like that. But I didn't expect that. But now I'm glad that they're back to their usual spot. Now, our first match, we have, of course, Shota. Many of you know that he is a big fan of Eddie Guerrero. He faced against, of course, the Baka Gaijin boss, himself, of course, Chris Brooks. Now, of course, these guys have faced off each other countless times, either in Gambare Pro or in DDT, of course. It doesn't matter when or where. But, of course, that's always been the case. But in the end, it was Chris Brooks because he picked up the win when he applied a assistance from the referee. The referee kind of put Shota in a crucifix position, but at the same time, Chris Brooks put Shota in a jackknife position, which I don't know exactly what they call that, but just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So basically, Shota got double pinned by both the ref and Chris Brooks, which I thought was very hilarious. Now, our next match, we have Princess Ram, also known as Ram Kaicho, dressed up like a little princess from Cinderella, faces against Tokyo Ganesha. It's actually Palinaki. So anyway, a very interesting match because, of course, there was a moment where, if you guys never seen Tokyo Ganesha, he actually is a guy in a mask wearing an elephant. Something Hindu. I don't know if you guys understand the whole Hindu reference thing. But yes, so basically he was facing her. And of course, as always, Princess Ram, as I mentioned, she's Ram Kaicho. She brought the ectoplasm, but it failed miserably because, of course, she would have assumed that this would have been the end of Tokyo Ganesha, but nope, it did not. But in the end, it was Ganesha with a modified cradle that picked up the win, and just like that, 1, 2, 3 is over. Now, our next match, we have Antonio Honda teaming up with Harashima to take on Mr. Malo in his white-looking mask. He teams up with Mr. Bueno, which, of course, if you look closely, nope, that's not Mr. Bueno. That is Mao dressed up like him, and he was speaking English. Now, of course, there were some, if you guys ever seen Antonio Honda, he always gets involved in stories, try to put the match on pause, and then he was telling, of course, Mr. Bueno, aka Mao, telling him, I hate your crappy English, because, of course, Mr. Bueno was talking in English the entire time. I mean, I feel like he spoke perfectly well, but as always, we see some interesting moments from Honda when it comes to his storytelling. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Malo somehow transformed into the black version of him. Basically, the mask turned into black, and low blowed, of course, Antonio and Harashima. But in the end, of course, we did see a combination of the full Nelson by, of course, Mr. Bueno, then a code breaker by Mr. Malo, and then after that, Honda got pinned by Mao, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Oh, my bad. Mr. Malo, and just like that, it was over completely. And then, of course, we did see a post-match coming from Chris Brooks. Basically, he's not pleased how things turned out, but he was trying to get them to get, their heads together until they were rudely interrupted by Dark King Ueki and Munich. Basically, they're pissed that they come all the way from hell asking Chris Brooks, why we not booked for today? Well, Chris Brooks says, well, he didn't have anybody. So basically, that was it, and they were not happy. So they kidnapped Chris Brooks because he refuses to give them a match. But somehow, out of nowhere, someone decided, you know what? These guys need an ass whooping, and that person is deathmatch legend, of course, and many of you know him, Jun Kasai, because he just showed up. So the match became a 2-on-1 scenario. Now, of course, many of you think it's a disadvantage for Jun Kasai. Guys, Jun Kasai is a big player. He knows exactly what he's doing. He dealt with dangerous things in his life, but of course, we did see a lot of things taking place. I mean, we saw chairs. We even saw some firecrackers being played in this matter, but it was an oopsie daisy. But in the end, of course, we did see Jun Kasai put Munich in a power driver position, but his head hit, of course, Dark King Yuki's gonads, and just like that, he just pinned both men. 1, 2, 3, done. So basically, a fun show. So I have to say, Jun Kasai was the one person I did not anticipate that was going to show up, but he did. Very happy for that. So I think that's pretty much it what we have for Baka Gaijin and Friends. So let's move on to our last review, which is, of course, AEW Dynamite Maximum Carnage. Okay, AEW Dynamite Maximum Carnage. So we open up with a video promo from Samoa Joe. As you probably know, Samoa Joe still has some problems with Hangman Page, despite the fact Joe was the one who defeated him for the AEW World title. So basically, he has that issue, and of course, the issue also is the AEW World Trios belt. But however, to deal with Hangman Page, he decided to put a bounty on it, and he sent the bounty hunter himself, of course, Brian Keith, to collect. Now, of course, Brian Keith did mention he had faced Hangman before, but he was unsuccessful. And now it's time for him to collect. So we'll see how that rolls out from there. Now, our first match of the night, of course, was Darby Allin versus Pac. Now, Darby Allin, as you know, you can say that Pac is kind of his white whale, knowing the fact he has lost to him twice. So the obvious question is, can Darby Allin, of course, overcome this? Now, before the match began, of course, Pac told the Death Riders that he's going to do this on his own. He doesn't need them to help him because, of course, Pac can definitely try to break Darby Allin in every way possible to ensure his win. And that's exactly what he was doing. He's trying to put him through the edge of the apron of the mat, through steel and the steel stairs and all that. But of course, the obvious thing is the dirty tricks. Pac used the referee to shield himself when Darby Allin was coming at him, and there was no referee. And of course, that idiot Wheeler Yuta showed up, but luckily he got taken out. And then, of course, Darby Allin, while the referee took advantage of it, decided to use the chair to take out, of course, Pac's ankle. And, of course, he used the coffin drop to do that. But, however, he could have put him away in that fashion. But, no, he used the Scorpion Deathlock to take him out by pressing on the injured ankle. And just like that, Pac had no other choice but to tap out. So, in a retrospect, Darby has finally defeated every member, of course, of the Death Riders. So probably he can ease at peace, or sooner or later, probably Death Riders want retribution of that. We don't know, but we'll see how that goes. Now we move on, of course. Brian Keith collecting his bounty against Hangman Page. Obviously, of course, this was orders from none other than Samoa Joe. But wherever Brian Keith goes, Big Bill will definitely be by his side. And of course, that's exactly what Big Bill tried to do. But however, Swerve took matters in his own hands, took out Big Bill. And then later, of course, Hangman applied the buckshot lariat onto him. And just like that, 1, 2, 3 is over. However, we did see a post-match promo where Hangman decided to tell Joe that he's going to take everything that belongs to him. Even Swerve, of course, has some things to say. But however, as you probably know, both these men are determined to go for the AEW World title. But there's one more person who put himself into that. Of course, Kenny Omega mentioned, of course, it doesn't matter if it's an old friend or a foe. Of course, Hangman, as you know, since his history with Kenny, he tells him that sooner or later those two will come across. But he did state it, make the best man win. Of course, Swerve did not like that, but he knows his. But of course, Swerve has forgotten that there was some history between both these men, so we'll see how that goes. But however, while Kenny has already declared that he'll be gunning for the AEW World title, but he did state it, he is not going to challenge it right away. He's going to pick up some match. But one person in the other end is not going to allow him to do that, and that is, of course, the biggest snake and the dumbest piece of garbage we ever seen, of course, Don Callis. Then, of course, he tried to send the walking weapon to do his dirty work, but instead he decided, let's wait until next week. So we'll see how that rolls out from there when we cross that bridge. Now, we did see an interview with Brody King, of course, about talking about the main event featuring his tag team partner, his friend, hermano, of course, Bandito, until Jonathan Cruz decided to get in his way. And he told him, hey, you're on standby. So basically what he had no idea, well, he's about to get his ass handed to him by Brody King, and he did. Basically, we went to that match, and Brody put him down in the Gonzo Bomb, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. But in the post-match promo, he did tell Bandito that if he does win the AEW World title, he would like to take the first shot at him. And of course, that's something that he will love to do. So we'll see how that goes from there. Now, our next match is a #1 contendership in a Tornado 4-way tag team match. We have, of course, the Don Callis family, Mark Davis and Jake Doyle, who is the newest member of the Don Callis family. They take on Jet Speed, Kevin Knight, Mike Bailey, versus, of course, the GOA, the Gates of Agony, Teo Leona and Bishop Khan versus the Young Bucks, who are in fact 3 times AEW World Tag Team Champions. So obviously we know that the Young Bucks have the experience to pick up the win. That's always been their case. But obviously we did see some, how do I see, the enemy of my enemy type of situation between, of course, the Don Callis family and the GOA, who are working together. Then we saw the same thing with Jet Speed and the Bucks. So we've been going back and forth on this matter. But there was a interesting moment where Ricochet decided to pull the referee to ensure this match goes to the GOA, but luckily Jack Perry took matter of his own hands and knocked them out. But however, things didn't go according to plan for everybody, because of course Kevin Knight ended up on the wrong side of the pile driver by Mark Davis, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Davis and Doyle are now the #1 contenders. But of course, FTR showed up to get in their faces, trying to tell them they're not gonna take these titles off of them. And then we see a brawl between them. So there's a lot of things. Now we did see a video promo from none other than Skyflight. As you know, Zeta Steel is the newest member. She, as you know, has her sights set on Marina Shafir after what happened last time. If you guys saw it, Marina Shafir got into her face, so we will see that. And of course, they have their sights set on Don Callis' family, especially Fletcher and Alexander. So we'll see how that rolls out from there from those guys. Now our next match we have is a 6-woman tag team match. We have the Triangle Madness, Tekla, Julia Hart, Sky Blue taking on, of course, our champions, the Babes of Wrath, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. Both of them are the current AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, our inaugural Tag Team Champions, and of course Willow being the TBS Champion. And then of course they got Chris Statlander, our current AEW Women's Champion. So as you know, we know for quite some time, we haven't forgotten, as you know, Sky Blue and Julia Hart did compete in a tag team tournament against, of course, the Babes of Wrath. Obviously, we know they probably would gun for those belts. But Tekla, as you know, for recent times, she has been gunning for the AEW Women's title. So that's always been the case, we know. So, of course, it was a fantastic match. But, however, it was Chris Statlander that ended up suffering the most after being pinned with Tekla. So, most likely, we will see Tekla versus Chris Statlander. So, we'll see when that happens. So Tekla has a win over that. So most likely the Triangle Madness will probably aim for the championship belts that all 3 women have. So we'll see where that leads. Now we did see an interview with Renee Paquette talking to Jet Speed after losing the #1 contendership. Swerve, of course, showed up and talked to Mike Bailey, telling him, hey bro, you and I have tore up in the independents internationally. I know we can do the same thing here. And then of course Swerve told Kevin Knight, you should know I was the one who talked to Tony Khan to bring you here. He tells him that he's the future of AEW. But of course, after he left, Hangman Page told them that, you know, that even though they may not have won this match, so he did told them that this coming Saturday in Collision, he and Jet Speed will be teaming up to take on the Ops for the Trios belts. It's because, as you know, Hangman said he's going to take everything away from Samoa Joe. So we'll see what happens. Now, the most interesting news happened before our main event. It was announced that the Rascalz will be heading to AEW. For many of you know, I put an update on this saying that they are now free agents. So basically, they're no longer part of TNA. It didn't take long until this happened. But there are more updates regarding that. That's going to be later on until we get there. So let us finish reviewing this. Now, our next match, of course, is the main event. The AEW World title, Bandito versus MJF. Now, of course, we know MJF what he's capable of. He'll try to play the smart game, try to ensure he does not lose the match whatsoever. Basically, he'll try to get outside the rings or try to remove Bandito mask. However he does it, it shows exactly who he is. And Bandito is determined to win. But unfortunately, he ended up, of course, in a crossface or something by MJF. And of course, you did see Bandito flipping him off. And of course, he didn't give up. He did not tap. The referee had no choice but to, of course, call the match. It was over. And of course, during the post-match, MJF told him, you know, that people said that he's going to be the future AEW World Champion. And he thought it was a joke. But obviously, this match proved them wrong. But of course, he's not going to let that happen. But luckily, Brody King showed up. So what's next for Bandito? We don't know. We know that he's being targeted because of his as ROH World Champion. But we'll see what it leads us. So as of right now, we are officially done with, of course, AEW. Let's move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin with upcoming events. Now, majority of it is updates coming from GCW, Game Changer Wrestling. Now, as you know, on the 17th of January, which is coming up soon, they'll be in Dallas for, of course, Code of the Street. They did announce there's going to be a J Cup qualifying match, which will happen next month in early February. And 6 men will be involved in that. We have Vengador, Aura, formerly known as Aura Mensa, uh, what's his name? Gavin Ash, Max, Arun, and JL. I don't know who these guys are. So these guys will be competing for the qualifying match at the J Cup for next month. Crime Wave that will happen the following day in Wichita, Kansas, on the 18th of January. For they announced Teriyaki will take on Gavin Ash. Then of course we have a new show on in the following month on February 27th in Rochester, New York, also known as Brody Lee Country. This name of the show is called What's My Name, and they announce people will be participating. We have Acticus Coger, Matt Tremont, Don Freeze, and of course YDNP, which is Alec Price and Jordan Oliver. And then 2 new shows have been announced as well, and this will happen in March. We have So Alive that will happen on the 7th of March in Columbus, Ohio. And then the following day on March 8th, we have Ransom, and this is going to take place in Chicago. Now, they haven't announced yet who will be participating, but I'm sure we'll get to there. Now, West Coast Pro, as you know, will be making their presence known in LA on February 27th. 2 more names have been added for this show that will be participating. For anybody in the LA area, of course, if any of my subscribers are from there, you should get your tickets for that. We have Miko Alana and, of course, Adrian Quest. So they will be participating at this event. So that's pretty much it for upcoming events. Let's move on to developments. And we're starting with some reports coming from Fightful Select. Fightful Select reports that they are the TNA are planning to return to Nashville, Tennessee in early February. If you guys remember, they've done a lot of shows there in the past, so it's very interesting news to see that. Now, as you all know, I mentioned the Rascalz will be making their appearance in AEW soon. Now, Fightful Select has confirmed this is 100% true, and of course, it was foretold that they were at the backstage area and they are signed with AEW. So the real question we ask ourselves, when they'll be making their debut. I mean, it could happen between now and maybe a week, 2, 3 tops, somewhere around there. Let's just wait to see what they'll go through in. Unfortunately, news, Powerhouse Hobbs, as you probably heard, his contract with AEW is up. According to what Fightful Select reports, they did offer him a huge deal, but he turned it out, so he decides that he's going to test the waters outside of AEW. So most likely, he could be one of those people that WWE could have an interest in, so we'll see where that goes from there. Now, TNA has reported that Jody Threat has re-signed with the company, so that's a good thing. As you know, Tony Khan has been mentioned once before. This was reported that they asked him if there will be any other wrestlers from CML that will have a dual contract. And remember, Hechi Seto is amongst those that has that contract. And recently it's been announced that Persephone and Mascaradora are officially now have a dual contract with both AEW and CML. So they'll be going back and forth. So it's a good thing to hear. Now, our last development here on our news updates, Kazuchika Okada said that he would like to have AEW to do a Japanese show over there. So we know it has been talked about this before. Rocky Romero gave his analysis about this. Kawada, who is one of Eddie Kingston's heroes and legendary wrestler, said he would like to see an AEW show there. Even Eddie Kingston said the same thing. So basically, there are people that would love to see that. But this is what he said regarding about that. Let me pull that up for all of you. He says, I would like to have AEW Japan show someday. There are amazing wrestlers and they're wrestlers that are very familiar in Japan. It's not just that wrestling is great, but I want people to see the entrances as such again new light, and so I would like to return in that form. So yes, so basically he wants to bring that type of thing into the fold, and hopefully we can see it. So the real question is, what will happen? We know they have done events in Australia, they have done events in the UK, they have done events in Mexico, and I think Japan is one of those one of the countries that I'm sure that they have thought about, but we'll see where that leads. So until then, we're done with our updates and everything else. Let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. If you guys might have noticed, I might have messed up. Apparently, I didn't do Evolve, so I'll probably do that on the next episode and do that with Ring of Honor and, of course, TNA. So I apologize. The reason is there was a lot of things that were going up in my personal life, but that's already over with. But anyway, so our next episode most likely will have Evolve, TNA, and of course Ring of Honor. So we'll put that, if I do have enough time, I might do one more. But also, I want to give you guys an update on what's going on with more info has been coming around regarding about Shingo Takagi and his newly wife Natsupoi on their marriage. Apparently, they had a press conference that they want to address to people. So we'll talk about that, and then that's going to be on a separate video. So stand by on that. So as of right now, we are officially done with everything. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day.